Hi, I'm Kevin,
And I'm Amanda.
and we are serving up
All that jam.
All that jam. Quick hit. Getting deep with Sponge.
you had said earlier to us that about the next tier. You're talking about tiers. I know that, it's a joke on Twitter, GM band tiers, fourth tier bands. What do you feel like your moves have to be? Well, let me go back. I asked you guys, what was your dream last time? And one of you said something about Red Rocks, that, playing Red Rocks was going to be it. What do you feel will take you to that next level coming up in 2024?
From what I've learned over the last couple of years, it's really about who you have in your corner. You can be so good as a band, but unless you have people behind you that are really making things happen, you're gonna play your local bar until you die. And it really comes to the people, the promoters, the agents, the people kind of in the back end of things that you really never hear a lot about, that make or break people's careers. And I think this year we've kind of had the pleasure of starting to branch out, and although we still do a lot of our booking independently, myself and Sage handle most of the booking. We've had the pleasure of working with a few agents on the East Coast, Matt Dolliver from Loose Leaf and Mike Liu, who's independent. And Mike introduced us to Greg Knight, who is PR manager for a lot of, up and coming or also right now very successful bands like Goose, like Special is one of them, Dogs in a Pile, etc. And funny enough, Greg used to be my camp counselor back in YMCA camp back in the day. So it was kind of a little fun to catch up with him on that. But basically to me, it feels like the more we can brush elbows with people who are on the doorsteps of greatness, basically, that I feel like the closer we get to achieving these dreams. And unfortunately, from what I've learned, a lot of that is not going to happen here in the Pacific Northwest. It's going to happen in the cities in which people hustle and really, really get things done, like New York City, like Chicago, like Denver, God forbid, Los Angeles. Just basically we've got to find people in the right areas who are going to hustle for us. I see people, like I mentioned, Chris with Lay Special, who literally does not stop working for that band. He's every morning, every night. It's just nonstop when he's on the road with these guys. You see Dan, who's Eggy's manager and tour manager and stuff like that. He's nonstop with everything. It's just like you see these people who would give everything for these bands, and it's just like it seems like this one person is able to make such a difference in these people's lives, whether it be an agent, whether it be a manager, whether it be a tour manager, somebody who is just kind of able to keep everything together while you're on the road or when you're at home trying to piece the puzzle pieces together to kind of put together the next tour and everything like that. It's just like what we had this conversation, Sage and I, the other day, is that like our job is not to be good at booking. Our job as the band is not to be good at booking. And our job is to be amazing musicians, to bring great music everywhere we go. That's kind of what we aspire to be. And unless we start having people do this thing that is not necessarily our expert skill set, i.e. booking and managing and things like that, unless we have someone really taking over that for us, like we can't put 100% of our energy into the music, which is, thankfully so far it hasn't, hurt us that bad as far as I can see. But
would you move?
What's that?
Would you move as a band?
We've never formally had the discussion. But I think if it ever came down to it, and if it was like in say 2 years, we look at the numbers and it's like, look, we're selling out, in Richmond, Virginia and Charleston, South Carolina, and we're, barely cracking 500 in Bend still. Like maybe there is a talk of moving somewhere, but no, I mean, we haven't really had that conversation yet. I would be willing to move for sure. I'm sure my girlfriend's not going to love hearing that, but we'll see. I just moved from Seattle to Eugene about 10 months ago in order to be closer to Sponge. So it would probably, I just want to be able to kind of settle in for maybe a little bit longer before we're ready to talk about moving anywhere else, I think is kind of the main reason right now.
Yeah. I mean, when you're talking about, first of all, I have to say, I think it's super impressive, just the realistic way that you're talking about the business that runs the machine. I think that is hugely important. And we hear this all the time too, of just, in music school or just generally in life. I mean, that organizational stuff, the project management tools isn't something that most people are ever taught, number one. And that's not what you're in this for, but you're in that position. And I think that resonates in terms of, finding whether it's one person or maybe a couple people that can do various things to just, take some of that off of you all. I'm sure that it's out there. People like Kevin and me, we're not musicians. We actually love the back end stuff. So I kind of understand what you're saying, because that's all I would ever want to do is give people that time. But I'm thinking, I know we've talked a lot about kind of the band, bigger picture things. I was wondering if I could just chat a little bit with you more on like an individual level for the music that you make. This is something that's always super interesting to me, which is you talked about success, and some of the things that you all are looking at as a band, but like for you personally, like what are some of the best things you could hear from someone about your playing, like after a show or hearing a recording? Like, what do you strive for?
That's a really good question, because it's kind of hard sometimes. I understand so many opinions are relative to people's perspective, and I will never get the experience of being able to watch a Sponge show. I think that's something we always say to each other is like, well, we can watch the videos, we can listen on Spotify, but there's a unique experience, especially in jam band culture, to seeing a band perform. I know I personally, like, if I hear about a band, I don't even like to listen to their music until I've seen them live. And that's something that I will never have the privilege of seeing. All I can do is judge myself in real time, which is usually not good. Usually I'm more criticizing myself than complimentary of myself. So a lot of times when people will compliment us after the shows, it's hard for me to really internalize it, because I just kind of am like, yeah, they don't know what they're talking about. I'm bad. Like that was bad. I think I was playing bad. But every once in a while we do have those shows where I feel like we make very little, if not no mistakes, and we really, really crush it. And then it's a lot easier for me to take a compliment. It's a lot easier for me to smile and be like, oh my God, thank you so much. I thought we played great. Thank you. So I think a lot of it has to do with me being inside my own head. And I think some of us, probably all of us in the band feel, I would think feel the same way based on our previous conversations. But yeah, I mean, it's all relative, I think, to their experience, to our experience. And sometimes when we're having a bad experience, it's really hard to believe that someone else had a good experience, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does make sense. completely. And, I think across different fields, it is very similar. It's not a natural thing for most people to really feel necessarily comfortable. I'm sure, though, there's something kind of in your heart, or when you're thinking about your music, that you're really kind of striving for, and so it's probably got to be an interesting thing to kind of be open to what that fan experience is, because we don't know what you all are intending to do. We know what we hear. It's like when you go to a big event, you don't know what didn't happen that the organizers wanted to do.
That's a really interesting way to put it. I as far as a metaphor goes, because you're right, and a lot of people, like, sometimes when we do mess up, they're like, oh, we didn't notice, like, no one had any idea. There might be that one guy who's like, oh, I saw that, but it's like, screw him.
Always that one guy.
And the shitty part is, like, that's usually me in the crowd. So I get it, I understand. But to myself, I say screw you. But yeah, it's definitely like, sorry, I'm just trying to circle back. It's definitely like, you're right about the whole event planner thing. Like, you don't know what didn't happen at the event. Like, you don't know what we had planned that didn't happen. All you know is what did happen. And sometimes that's just as good as what would have happened I don't know. I guess it's kind of like it's not really like Schrodinger's cat. I'm trying to come up with like a different, like metaphor for that, of like, if you know we messed up, I don't know. Never mind.
If a tree falls in the forest.
Exactly. Something like that. Right.
Well, it's like, if someone's watching the band, they change the band. That whole physics thing. When you watch something, it fixes it in place, but there's 9 things happening at once. You guys are on Nugs right now?
No, that's actually kind of one of our goals for this year. I was
just wondering why the Bandcamp last thing was 2022 on there.
We have not had the easiest time archiving in 2023. I really can't explain it very well. I think our focus has mainly been on YouTube in 2023, in trying to get content that people can both watch and listen to. But it's come with the detriment of kind of ignoring the whole Bandcamp archive, which I don't necessarily think is the best thing. I think we should be putting stuff up to that Bandcamp. I'm a little...
Just got to strip the audio off the YouTube and upload it to Bandcamp.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, exactly. All we got to do is just chop it up. Yeah, that's true. It's all that stuff is sitting in a hard drive with our sound engineer who lives in Portland. So
we got no snacks. We got no snacks either last year. What was up with that?
So like I said, I moved from Seattle to Eugene. My old house in Seattle actually used to be our recording studio. So we used to record in the bottom floor of my old house. Good friend of mine and my old bandmate Kevin Shoup with Mandarax Records would produce the albums for us. He was my roommate at the time, and he has since gotten married, so I couldn't afford to live in Seattle by myself, et cetera, et cetera. So we're heading up to he has reestablished a studio up in Seattle. So we're heading up there this week to do that. So stay tuned for more Snack Size. We will have that coming up soon. We want to try to get it out before we head out on tour, but we'll see if that's possible or not.
Yeah, we need spongy snacks.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's so much fun. And it's something that kind of has endless possibilities that you can just roll with forever. I love that, just kind of as an ongoing series, and kind of be known like for that. because I haven't seen anything quite like that, which is cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, credit to Sage. I'm almost positive that was Sage's idea of the whole snack size. Because, I mean, these days, especially with the way that media moves, it's so hard to keep someone's attention past the fifth song of your album. Even if the album is great, your drive to work is only so long sometimes. Your ride on the bus is only so long sometimes. We felt that 5 songs was the perfect amount of time to tell a quick little story, mix up the genres a little bit, have it kind of be a little weird, a little eccentric, and kind of deliver a tight little package of what you can expect when you see us live, from bluegrass to funk music to a little bit of electronic music to, kind of all sides of the spectrum. We've got weird polyrhythms, stuff like that, odd meters and stuff. So it's just kind of like basically trying to establish a breadth of ability in as tight of a package as possible.
Cool. And 5 songs, you said you were thinking
5
about
songs a piece. What's that?
5 songs a piece. So of the dozen or so that you've written, you've already picked the 5 out. You know what you're going for?
I think we've narrowed it down to 5 for this 3 for the third one. And then we've kind of lightly outlined the 4th one, but if we write a song or 2 before then, we'll probably replace a song or 2. It's not finite. It's very loose. It's kind of like what songs are performing the best when we're hitting the studio. And right now we've settled on those 5 and we're ready to record them. And we're just going to polish them up this week and then drive up to Seattle on Sunday.
There you go. How hard is it to take songs that have been living and growing over the past year and to nail them down into the artifact, to this is the way the song is?
I think it depends. Our first process was a lot easier than our second. The second process just kind of involved a lot of different elements. The second Snack Size EP, we had our friend Zach from Whalian play flute on it. We had a bunch of different stuff going on. We put the saxophone through like a crazy pedal chain and did like all kinds of effects, which was the first time we'd ever done anything like that. I think we had a little bit more fun with experimentation. I think the first session for the first Snack Size EP we got done in like maybe 5 or 6 days with like a little bit of polishing up. But the second EP process took a long time. Probably like 3 or 4 separate like 5-day sessions. And then we also, we had Torrin Daniels from the Kitchen Dwellers play on the single from that last EP. So mixing that in as well took a little bit of time to kind of get it perfect. All of us just kind of huddled around a computer going now, like, dude, and just kind of making sure that it's all like, lined up and perfect. But yeah, it was kind of an interesting process for the second one. I think we were a little bit more hands-on, a bit more intuitive with it. Whereas the first one was just kind of like, we need this content out. We need to get it recorded. Like the first album that SPUNJ has on streaming was recorded with the first band, which I wasn't even a part of. It was just kind of 2 guitars, bass player, and drums. And that was the band that formed in Arcata, California before they moved up here to Eugene. So now it was kind of like, well, we've got new instruments, like there's keyboards involved, there's new songs. Let's get this material recorded so we can start touring behind it and kind of have an accurate representation of what the band can accomplish on stage in the studio.
You got anything else you want to throw out? Any festivals on your radar coming up? Anything like that you can talk about?
Nothing we can talk about festival wise right now. We're doing April 19th and April 20th in Missoula. In Bozeman and Missoula, respectively. April 19th in Bozeman and April 20th in Missoula. Both of those are free shows where we're playing 2 sets a pop. So that's kind of a fun one. Bicycle Day and 420 kind of back to back in Montana. Love Montana, love playing there, and they seem to really like us. So excited to be there. That's basically going to cap off this spring tour and bring us on back home.
It's a long drive.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Is it true there's no speed limit on the main interstate in Montana?
I don't know that there's no speed limit. I don't really remember ever seeing speed limit posted signs. But unlike the app that we use for guidance and direction with navigation, the app we use for navigation basically just says it's 80 miles an hour.
Okay.
But I don't know, some of those mountain passes are like, you do not want to be doing 80 miles an hour through some of those roads in Montana. It's pretty gnarly up there.
We all need an app that's going to give us guidance, I think.
I'll download that.
If you are enjoying All That Jam, please like and subscribe to our social media channels at All That Jam Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, or visit our website, allthatjampod.com. Make sure to sign up for our email list and tune in every week for new episodes.
Also, look for full interviews on our YouTube channel. And remember, stay beautiful, but don't stay underground too long.